Hey everyone, and welcome to Boston Autoblog. In 2021, we look at Mitsubishi as being a brand that's one step behind everyone else, whether it comes to technology, comfort, or exterior styling. However, they've always been an attainable brand where people could buy an affordable crossover that's also practical and really feel as though that they're getting a good vehicle at around $25,000 to $30,000. Thanks to the help of Nissan, this brand is about to take things to a whole new level. So today we're taking a look at the all-new 2022 Mitsubishi Outlander, and wow, is this the beginning of a new era for this manufacturer. Cutting edge and modern were not adjectives you'd use to describe Mitsubishi in the past, but we're going to see some things change with the new Outlander as the exterior looks really nice, sleek, and aggressive. And also when we check out the interior, it's going to have some up-to-date technology features and I think some really great comfort as well. So in this video, we're going to take a good long look at the 2022 Mitsubishi Outlander and see why, if you're looking at buying a new crossover that's not going to break the bank and you have a strict budget around $30,000, then maybe buying an Outlander might be a great decision. Now before I get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Central Mitsubishi in Raynham, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below so you can check out their extensive Mitsubishi inventory. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. When we think of mainstream automotive manufacturers in the US, Honda, Toyota, Ford, and GM will likely be the first brands that come to mind. At one time, Mitsubishi was also well known, but more so with car enthusiasts thanks to the Lancer Evolution and Eclipse. Since transitioning to a full crossover lineup, the brand has been hiding in the shadows of rivals, and for the most part has banked on offering affordable vehicles with outstanding warranties, experiencing minimal success with this strategy. Mitsubishi needed to start a new decade off with an attention grabber, and that's exactly what they have with the completely redesigned 2022 Outlander. And for the first time in many years, there's some excitement surrounding this company to give enthusiasts hope that this brand can return to its former glory. Starting off with pricing, the Mitsubishi Outlander in this review is an SE Launch Edition, coming in at $29,995, with four-wheel drive being an $1,800 option. Without stating the obvious, a lot has changed for this compact crossover, including the new Nissan platform that underpins the Outlander, making it a distant relative to the Nissan Rogue, which to some extent does share similar design cues. With competitors in this segment putting more emphasis on refinement and interior comfort, using the same architecture as an established brand is going to come with a list of benefits that we'll take a look at throughout this review. At first glance, the 2022 Outlander looks substantially larger than the outgoing model, but remarkably, the only change in dimensions is an additional 2 inches in width and just over 1.5 inches in height to give passengers more room. One of Mitsubishi's strengths is making their crossovers off-road versatile, and for 2022, the Outlander will have a ground clearance of 8.3 inches to outclass a few rivals in this market. When taking a glance at the road presence, this crossover has received quite the makeover, going from a bland and vanilla design to now having one of the boldest styling in this segment. While there are some cosmetic similarities to the refreshed Eclipse Cross, especially with the chrome accents that outline the front grille and wrap around the headlight housings, it is very distinguishable on the road, and in fact, I was receiving a lot of attention during the test drive. Just like we see with Range Rovers and the new 4 Explorer, the Outlander badge is now displayed on the hood for a classy and somewhat rugged look. Also new, but not exclusive to the Outlander, is that the LED DRLs and LED headlights are separate, which has become a trend among Japanese and Korean brands, but really fits this crossover well. To some, the new road presence might be an acquired taste. However, it does stand out, and to be honest, it's also a bit captivating as well, and it's been a long time since we could say that about a vehicle from Mitsubishi. Moving over to the side profile, the SE Launch Edition will be sitting on 20-inch two-tone alloy wheels, giving the Outlander an aggressive and more upscale stance. While last generation was also squared off, the 2022 model takes the same form as some off-road capable crossovers, especially with the boxier roofline, which should draw in buyers looking for a vehicle that is capable of tackling some light off-roading. You'll have body color folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, the Outlander's minor dimensional changes for 2022 becomes far more noticeable, but more importantly, the rear fascia's redesign makes this crossover look sleek, and to some extent, slightly European with the new LED taillights. A welcoming sight is the lack of plastic cladding, as Mitsubishi kept the road presence simplistic, but clean, and that should translate well with consumers. Overall, when staring at the new Outlander, its modern appearance is a breath of fresh air for this brand, and from a design aspect, is a step in the right direction as Mitsubishi begins to update their lineup. Under the hood, the Mitsubishi Outlander is powered by a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine that puts out 181 horsepower and 181 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with the CVT. This is the same engine that can be found in the new Nissan Rogue. While performance isn't going to be the main headline, in the city and backroad driving, the CVT does quite well. But drawing my attention and admiration the most was the driving dynamics, as handling was far better than expected. For the drivetrain, front-wheel drive will come standard, but you can opt for four-wheel drive, which will better suit buyers living in colder regions of the US. For fuel economy, you can expect to receive right around 24 miles per gallon in the city and 31 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, you can buy synthetic suede and leatherette seats, which surprisingly provide a good amount of bolstering and support, and overall, pretty comfortable. They will be heated for both the driver and passenger, and when it comes to adjustability, the driver's side is powered, but passengers will have to manually find their ideal seating position. Once you're behind the wheel, that's when you're going to notice the Nissan Rogue-like interior, and as we've already seen so far, that isn't a bad thing at all. In front of you, if you opt for the SE Launch Edition or SEL trim, you'll have a 12-inch digital gauge cluster that helps modernize the interior and gives the Outlander a much-needed dose of technology. Resolution and quality are pretty impressive for a vehicle priced around $30,000, and it's from here where you can scroll through a variety of information, and even change the layout of the gauges for a unique appearance. When changing drive modes, they'll be displayed here as well, reminiscent to what we see in new Ford products. Then moving over to the infotainment system, you'll have a 9-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility, to go along with onboard navigation and the 10-speaker Bose sound system. Despite this user interface not being the most in-depth, it does respond very well, and buyers will love the physical buttons and volume and tuning knobs, as brands have solely embraced buttonless head units. The model in this review also has Sirius XM radio, but what really stood out was that for a crossover priced at $30,000, you have a top view camera with front and rear backup cameras with trajectory, which is great to see in a vehicle that was once considered outdated and now has some tech at this price point that we don't see in some competitors. Then as we work our way down towards the center console, you'll find the buttons and dials for your dual zone climate control, front and rear defrosters, and 3-level heated seats. Below that, you'll have a wireless phone charging pad, a USB and USB-C input, and a 12-volt outlet. Now keep in mind that some of these features can only be found on the SE Launch Edition or SEL. For the center console itself, you're going to notice the Nissan-like gear shifter, which does give the interior a bit more of a modern look. And you're also going to have the dial for your drive mode selector. For the center storage compartment, you'll have enough room for smaller items. And rounding out the front seating area, with the SE Launch Edition, you're going to have a panoramic moonroof to let in a lot of natural light to the interior. Now to go a little more in depth for the interior for the 2022 Mitsubishi Outlander SE Launch Edition, I gotta be honest, at first glance you see a lot of parts from Nissan, especially with the gear shift selector right out of a Nissan Rogue. But that is not a detriment to this vehicle at all. In fact, I think it makes the Outlander very appealing at around $30,000. So you have a digital gauge cluster, a 9-inch touchscreen, which is actually pretty responsive, and this digital gauge cluster has really high quality resolution as well. You also get a wireless phone charging pad, and these are things that you just don't expect to see at around $30,000. Now, Mitsubishi, in my mind, in the modern age, has always been a brand for people on a very strict budget, that they're looking for a crossover, a brand new one with a great warranty, and it might not have all the bells and whistles, but for someone who is looking for a vehicle around $30,000, they're at least getting a good vehicle to drive. However, in 2021, with this new Outlander, not only is this a vehicle for people on a budget, but now it's a vehicle that provides great tech features as well, up-to-date stuff. And it doesn't feel like it's outdated the minute it comes off the assembly line. This is up-to-date stuff right here, even though it does have the Nissan Rogue interior to a certain degree. But I think it actually makes this vehicle better overall. And I love this massive panoramic moonroof, brings in a lot of light. And to be honest, I could go on all day about this vehicle. I think it's a huge step forward for the brand, especially compared to last generation. And I gotta be honest, I'm really impressed with this. I truly am. And I really want to see more Mitsubishis go on the Nissan Renault platform, because I think that's when this brand really will see a boost in sales, but also a lot of positivity towards the brand as well. I think people are going to start looking at these vehicles in a much more positive light, and this is a great start. I'm really, truly impressed. Now, for passengers in the back, we're going to start off on the passenger side, and the seat is adjusted further back, is also somewhat on a recline, and I still have a few inches of legroom to work with here, which is really great to see. Now, of course, vehicles of this size are not going to be the most spacious when it comes to legroom, but I think if you have kids back here, they're going to be just fine. Now, do keep in mind, I'm around the height of 5'5", and this seat is adjusted to someone around the height of over 6 feet tall. So theoretically, if you're around maybe 5'9", 5'10", I think you could sit back here pretty comfortably. And speaking of comfort, you have a good amount of headroom, even with this massive panoramic sunroof. So I think if you are taller, you're not going to feel claustrophobic in this vehicle. Now, moving over to the center seat, the center hump is not very aggressive compared to other vehicles that we've seen in this segment. However, this hump is a bit wider, so it will impede a bit when it comes to legroom, and it does make the second row seats feel a bit more cramped than in reality. Now, of course, for vehicles of this size, most likely you're not going to be able to fit a third person in the second row comfortably. It's just not going to happen when it comes to shoulder room. If you have 3 kids, I think it could work, but average size adults, that's when it gets a bit cramped back here for sure. Now, for the driver's side, the seat is adjusted a little bit further up. It's not adjusted to someone of my height, but I have plenty of legroom to work with here. So I think overall, if you have a family, this vehicle is perfect for that. Now, even though we do have a third row, we're not going to be testing that out because even for someone around my height, it's a bit tight. So I think overall, this vehicle is better suited for just 5 people at the end of the day. I don't think you're going to be using those third row seats at all. Also back here, you will have 2 rear air vents. Now, if you were to upgrade to the SEL, you will have climate control and heated outboard seats. And rounding out the rear seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Now, coming around to the back, on our model, we have a power liftgate. And inside, you're going to find right around 33.5 cubic feet behind the second row seats, which falls right in line with a lot of compact crossovers in this segment. Now, the reason why we had the third row seats folded is because most likely you'll never use them. Even for someone around my height, it's pretty claustrophobic. And also, just from a practicality standpoint, you're going to want to have those third row seats folded just because you want to have more room. So when those third row seats are up, you're talking a very minimal amount of space. And even though we're seeing a lot of brands do this now where they are offering a third row, like the Kia Sorento and Volkswagen Tiguan, I think vehicles of this size are still better suited for 5 people overall. Now, with the second row seats folded, that space right on doubles in size. When you look at the dimensions overall, it falls right in line with other compact crossovers. We're talking like the Nissan Rogue, which is very closely related to, and also other smaller compact crossovers that might be a little more trimmed down compared to, say, a Toyota RAV4 or Honda CR-V. Then on either side of the rear cargo area, you will find some deep pockets for maybe some water bottles or smaller items, and maybe even car detailing equipment if you want to keep this car looking good. And you don't have to worry about them being thrown around on your more valuable items. Also, a great feature that I like is the rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and you have camera gear with you or anything of value, you don't have to worry about people peeking in and stealing what you have. And then beneath the floor mat, you will find a small storage compartment for the headrests for the third row seats. Also, if the third row seats are up, you can probably fit some maybe smaller electronics that you don't want people seeing while you are parked at a restaurant or a mall. And then once you're done, just press the button and the lift gate will close automatically. All right, so let's take the Mitsubishi Outlander out for a test ride to see how it performs, how it handles, how it drives, and see if it really is a great compact crossover that should be on your list of considerations if you're looking at buying a vehicle around $30,000. Not bad, not bad at all. That'll get you up to speed pretty quickly getting on the highway. I like the brakes. They provide a good amount of feedback, which is not something I was expecting, because a lot of vehicles in this segment, you have to really mash on the brake pedal. This responds pretty well. That's what I like. Now, you definitely feel the CVT kick in with the acceleration, so you're not going to have that traditional automatic feel, but that's okay. A lot of vehicles in this segment have CVTs, but I gotta be honest, this vehicle feels very composed. I'm really impressed with how the vehicle is handling corners. It's holding the line pretty well. Also, even though this vehicle doesn't really have a low center of gravity, it feels pretty nice. Now, from a comfort aspect, these seats provide a good amount of bolstering, and you want to be behind the wheel of this vehicle for longer periods of time. I think if I had this vehicle for about 6 to 8 hours, I wouldn't be tired of it after giving the keys back to the dealership. It's actually really nice. I really was not expecting this at all, because I have spent some time with Mitsubishis in the past, and I just was never really blown away. But this is actually a stark difference from vehicles in the past from Mitsubishi, and I think that this is a great step forward. I really do. Now, I like the throttle response and steering input in normal, but I'm going to put it in tarmac mode just to see what that does. It makes it feel a little more aggressive for sure. Steering input has tightened up a bit. And this is nice. This is really nice. There's not a lot of body roll, which is throwing me off, because this is a pretty big crossover, and I feel like I'm driving a car. Seating position's nice too. You have a nice commanding feel over the road. Also in tarmac mode, what really stands out to me is that braking does respond a lot better, and you don't normally see that for vehicles that are not sports oriented. Usually all you see is an experience is the acceleration that gets a little more aggressive and steering input tightens up, but braking, nothing really changes. But this really stands out to me because if I do need to brake in an emergency, I have that confidence knowing that I'll be able to stop and I won't smash into the car in front of me. But I think that overall though, what Mitsubishi has done, and when you think of what this brand always symbolized, it was an attainable brand where if you were on a strict budget and you were looking for a new vehicle, and maybe some of the nicer Hondas and Toyotas out there are a little bit more expensive and out of budget, you could go with the Mitsubishi and still receive some great features. With the new Outlander, I think that this is a really big step forward for the brand, where now you have that confidence where maybe you can kind of decide, I don't really want to go with a Honda or Toyota. I can go with a Mitsubishi and get some great value at around $30,000. That's exactly what I think you have here. Now, of course, you are going to want to go with four-wheel drive, especially if you live up in New England and colder regions of the country. Two-wheel drive might not cut it. Of course, as an enthusiast, I would just say get winter tires, but most likely you're going to want to go with four-wheel drive just to have that extra peace of mind. I got to be honest, though, I am really impressed with how quiet the interior really is here. And Mitsubishi has never really been known to have a luxurious interior or be very well refined, but this is really standing out to me. I'm really impressed. But when you compare this vehicle to a Honda CR-V or Toyota RAV4, I think it could definitely hold its own. And of course, it's not going to really sit on the higher end when it comes to luxury and comfort features, but when you're looking at a vehicle at around $30,000 and you have a digital gauge cluster, you have a big infotainment system, you have dual zone climate control up front with 3-level heated front seats, you don't necessarily see that in this price range. So I think if you're on a strict budget, you're gonna like this vehicle for sure. Now, I think this test drive did answer a few questions that I had, which one of them was being, why is there so much hype around this crossover? Because a lot of people like the exterior, but also they're really excited about the fact that it is built on a Renault-Nissan platform, and I think that's done wonders for this vehicle because you do feel a little more planted to the road. It definitely feels more high quality than Mitsubishi's in the past. Also, of course, the technology that you have to work with here. I would recommend going with an SE Launch Edition or SEL just because you get the digital gauge cluster, you also get dual zone climate control and the 3-level heated seats. But I feel as though at $30,000, you're receiving a lot of value right there. And it does stand out in this segment. Also, I think the exterior is a step up too, because Mitsubishi was always just a bland brand where, you know, you looked at them and like, okay, you know, it just drives by, but this actually draws attention. I've had a lot of people stare at me while I'm driving because with the front end, with the front fascia, because Outlander is written out in letters, it makes it look as though it's a Land Rover or a Ford product, and that's really good for this vehicle because you want to have people drawn in to this crossover, especially where it is very attainable at around $30,000. I really think people are going to respond to this vehicle very well, and I wouldn't be surprised if this sells immediately once these really start arriving at dealers, because Americans are looking for affordable vehicles that are practical and also provide a good amount of comfort and safety features, and that's exactly what the Outlander offers, especially in the SE Launch Edition. I think people are looking for great values, especially where with compact crossovers, there's not much out there that really stands out, because you will have some brands that do offer a full digital gauge cluster. You'll have some brands offering some luxury features as well, but nothing really to write home about, especially at a price range around $30,000, because most likely if you're looking at a RAV4 or a Honda CR-V right now at $30,000, you're not getting a digital gauge cluster. Those are analog gauges. You might not have the dual zone climate control, and you might not have the bigger infotainment system. This is really nice, especially where you have onboard navigation and Sirius XM satellite radio. That's incredible. I think this is a great value. This is one of the better crossovers I've actually driven in this segment over the past year or so. So I'm really impressed. So at the end of the day, in my opinion, this is the beginning of the turning point for the Mitsubishi brand here in this country, thanks to the help of Nissan. When you look at the exterior and the interior, this is a significant upgrade from last generation. Also, when it comes to the consumer's perspective, they're going to love the up-to-date technology, they're going to love the interior comfort at a price point that's not going to break the bank. Now, obviously, we have a 2-wheel drive Outlander today. You're going to want to go with 4-wheel drive if you live in colder regions of the country. But I just think that at the SE trim level, this is pretty impressive. It's not the top trim, and you don't really feel like you need to upgrade to that. Now, of course, you're going to want to go with the Launch Edition because you will have that digital gauge cluster and the massive panoramic moonroof, but the SEL provides a little more creature comfort, such as climate control for the second row seats and also heated seats for the second row. But this is really impressive overall, and I think Americans are going to respond to this, especially for a vehicle at around $30,000. We just don't see this right now with Toyota and Honda, especially when it comes to the technology aspect. Comfort, that might be a bit subjective, and people might find Toyota and Honda to provide that comfort. But I think this is a much needed upgrade for Mitsubishi, and I really hope to see more models be built on the Nissan Renault platform, because I think then we're going to see this brand really take off in this country, especially when you look at that price point. I think that Mitsubishi has done an amazing job with this vehicle, and as an enthusiast, I'm really excited for what this brand has to offer in the future. This is just a starting point in my opinion, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what comes from this closer collaboration with Nissan, because I think now we're going to start seeing a lot more up-to-date vehicles that are more comfortable, that actually provide a good amount of features and tech and safety features that people are going to love in this price range. And I think that you should definitely take a look at this vehicle, take it out for a test drive, because I think, just like myself, you're going to be impressed. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.